We also have to mute everybody, so don't forget to unmute yourselves if you're speaking.
I'm going to mute everybody now. Okay, and then we'll start to let people in.
Okay.
Okay. And Adriana, you can do your welcome bit.
Right.
But now unmute yourself now. So
sorry.
I'm going to let people in,
Let
Lynn.
them in. Let's
okay, wait,
do it.
I'm looking for press first. Nobody's there yet.
Great photos.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Zoom collaborative engagement to get our Sheriff Juan Figueroa reelected. If you're press, could you please check into the chat with your name and your who you're affiliated with? Welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in a little bit. Please enjoy the photos, the nice slideshow of Juan Figueroa and our beautiful Ulster County community. We're here today to get Juan reelected and to hear from people in the community. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. We will be taking questions at the end of the event today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today as we support our Sheriff Juan Figueroa in his re-election campaign. We're thankful that you're here. Please put your name and affiliation in the chat if you are press, and we will be taking questions at the end of the event today. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're happy you're here as we work to re-elect our Sheriff, Juan Figueroa. If you could put your name and affiliation in the chat if you are press, we would appreciate that. And we will be taking questions at the end of this event. Most of you are probably very familiar with Zoom now. You know how to raise your Zoom hand, but just in case you don't, and you would like to ask a question, please go to the bottom of your screen. You can just look at it where it says reactions and there's a little smiley face. If you click on that, there will be a little area there where you can say raise hand, and you just want to click on that when it comes time to ask questions. So again, we will be doing that at the end of the event, but just familiarize yourself with Zoom in case you haven't engaged with this part of this whole process before. Again, we want to thank you for being here. We're very excited to re-elect our Sheriff, Juan Figueroa, Sheriff of Ulster County. And we're so glad you're here. Again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the Zoom chat. And we will be getting to those questions at the end of the event. The room is filling up nicely, it looks like. We have 55 participants here. We're very excited to see you all. We're very excited to be with you this morning. We hope you're staying warm and healthy. And we're really happy to have you here. I see a lot of Ulster County Democratic Committee names entering the room. Very happy to see that. Ulster County really is one of the most active, progressive, boots on the ground counties in New York State. And I just want to thank you all for being so civically engaged and holding a vision of Ulster County that we all can thrive in. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here as we work to re-elect our Sheriff, Juan Figueroa. We're going to be starting in a few minutes. Thank you for your patience. If you are part of the press, please enter your name and your affiliation in the chat. Zoom light here. How's everyone doing today? Wave hands. Thank you so much. It's hard to be engaged when we're behind screens all the time, but I feel you sending love, sending engagement, sending lots of energy and excitement, because it's hard sometimes when we're just isolated. And I miss you all. I miss engaging. And this feels like a lot of energy. We have a good amount of participants here, and I'm really thankful. And will one of the organizers just give me a heads up when I am supposed to start and start introducing people?
You're on.
I'm on. All right. So welcome everyone. We are here to re-elect our Ulster County Sheriff, Juan Figueroa. We have a number of sitting electeds here with us that we will be introducing, as well as local leaders. And yes, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. First, I would like to introduce our state senator, Michelle Hinchey. Michelle Hinchey has hit the ground running, has been working for the people of Ulster County. We are so happy that she is here. As many of you might know, she was born and raised in Ulster County, in the town of Saugerties, where she still resides. She is a strong union advocate and a champion on energy and environmental protection, as well as economic development. Thank you so much for being with us, Michelle.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. It is so great to see you all for this incredibly important event, an incredibly important moment. I know, Adriana, as you were saying, we all wish that we could be doing this together. And, you know, I think many of us thought that we could be here in January, but we cannot miss a moment to celebrate and support our great Sheriff Juan Figueroa. It is so important. So first of all, thank you everyone for signing on and for tuning in and for putting your support early behind our sheriff. We know we need him, and this is the best way to do this now. So thank you all so much for doing it. I am so excited to support Sheriff Figueroa. He has been someone, you know, we were just talking, it feels like we just elected him and immediately turned into a pandemic, right? And has been on the ground serving the people of this community immensely. Flip of a switch, jumped right in, because that's what our sheriff does. We are so blessed to have someone as progressive, as forward-thinking, and a box breaker as Juan to helm our law enforcement in Ulster County as our sheriff. I will tell you, I am bringing actually other senators to come meet with him and his team to learn about the incredible work that they are doing and that they are leading here in our county. That's amazing. It is amazing that our sheriff is breaking the mold, that is creating new and incredible innovations for connecting our community with services, connecting our community, building trust with law enforcement, with our sheriff's office. I know we'll hear more about just how critical and amazing the Oracle program is, and also the new AVERT program that is also launching to help stem the tide of gun violence and violence generally in our community. That's happening here under the leadership of our sheriff. And as I said, I've brought the chair of the Substance Use Disorder Committee to come meet with him and his team to learn about what they're doing. I'm bringing two of my colleagues who are leading, Senator Myrie and Senator Bailey, who lead the charge on criminal justice reform in the Senate. We actually have a meeting with Sheriff Figueroa and his whole team in a couple of weeks to talk about the incredible work that is being done here as a model, a potential model for the rest of the state. That is amazing. That we have that kind of leadership, that kind of foresight happening here in our community, really truly helping people at all levels. And I know we may hear it too, that our sheriff was selected to present his programs at the Sheriff's Association, right? We have one of the standout sheriffs of the entire country. That is amazing. I know, yes, that is a round of applause, because that leadership is often hard to come by. It's really hard to change a system that doesn't always want to change, right? That's sometimes difficult to, that is really entrenched. It's hard to do that work, and you have to do it. We have to do it from the inside out. And Juan is building that support. He is building, buy-in is too less of a word or too small of a word. He is building real love for the programs and the engagement and the community engagement that he is leading. And again, we are just so fortunate to have that here, which is why it is so critically important that we re-elect him, because we need another 4 years. We need an eternity of Sheriff Figueroa, but we definitely need another 4 years of his leadership in that space, because we know we are all so much better served with him in that spot. I know I'm better served as a state representative to work with him. We'll hear from our other elected leaders who work in the trenches at the county level with him. We know we are better with Sheriff Juan Figueroa at the helm. So I feel really honored to be a part of this kickoff. I feel really honored to be a part of this team with all of you and so many more, to know that we have to do the work. This is going to be a tough election year. People are tired. It feels like there's always a big election, because there is, but this is a tough year. And we have to recognize how important up and down the ballot this is, especially for Sheriff Figueroa. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for spending your time and your energy and recognizing just how important of a season this is and how important of an election this is. We are in such an incredible place because of all the work that's done here. So I'm in the ring. Let me know how I can help even more. We'll be there knocking doors, hopefully when we can, making calls, raising the money, doing all the things we need to do to make sure that we reelect Juan Figueroa for Ulster County Sheriff. So thank you all so much. And I cannot wait for another 4 years of Juan.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was a beautiful introduction. And next up, I would love to introduce Steve Kelly. Steve Kelly is the president and CEO of Ellenville Regional Hospital and has been since 2003. Under Mr. Kelly's leadership, Ellenville Regional Hospital has been recognized as a leader in rural health and has won many national and regional awards. And personally, I live in Ellenville, and I have had the opportunity to use Ellenville Regional Hospital for very serious situations. One time when my daughter had a low blood sugar situation, she had to be rushed to the hospital and then was transferred to Albany. So when I first moved to Ellenville, people said, don't go to Ellenville Regional Hospital. And now it is such a wonderful place to go. And it is due to your vision and your hard work, sir. So please, without further ado, Steve Kelly.
Well, thank you very much, Adriana, for that great commercial for us. I appreciate that very much. Hopefully, it was a great outcome at the end. It is always difficult to be stuck between Senator Hinchey and Evelyn Clark. So I'm going to do my best. I feel a little bit outgunned here, but so I'm the CEO here at Ellenville Regional Hospital, and as you know, we're up to our ears in the COVID pandemic. Last week was our busiest week in my 18 years here in our emergency department. About half of our patients are COVID patients, so we're pretty busy. But an interesting thing, which is what I want to talk about today, is that before the COVID epidemic, the biggest epidemic that we had was the opioid epidemic. And that epidemic has been raging for a long time, and it actually is raging right now and is getting worse. With all the isolation of COVID, it's getting worse. So I'd like to sort of weave in a little story, if you would indulge me a little bit, about Juan Figueroa and our experience with him. So historically, Ellenville Regional Hospital has had little interaction with law enforcement. We do appreciate their rapid response when we have an unruly patient, which occasionally happens in our emergency department. Nothing calms down an intoxicated, obnoxious patient who is being rude to our staff and our nurses, like having a large, burly, crisply dressed sheriff strolling into our emergency department, wondering what the problem is. Usually they calm down real quick. So we appreciate that. And we are also very supportive of law enforcement when they have accidents or they're involved in situations where they may be injured, or they're bringing in inmates, there are people in custody for treatment. But basically, we do healthcare and they do the law enforcement part. So we've basically stayed in our lanes. And that's the way it's been for almost my whole time here. So over the last 7 or 8 years, Ellenville Regional Hospital has been working to fight the opioid crisis. We developed programs that reduced opioid administration by 95% in our emergency department. We've worked with partners like the Institute for Family Health, Catholic Charities, and Step One, and many others in this area, all in healthcare, all healthcare providers of different types. But we didn't work with law enforcement in this area at all. Law enforcement saw people who were addicted to opioids and other substances differently than we did. We see them as patients, and they see them, or have seen them, kind of as criminals. So about 3 years ago, which is, we could tell 3 years ago is when the sheriff was elected, we were working on a new program to offer Suboxone in our emergency department, and then transfer the care of patients to longer-term providers that would be able to help them through their treatment and recovery. So Suboxone is a treatment medication that relieves the craving for opioids. Once that craving is relieved, then people can repair their life. They can get back to work. They can repair their relationships. And so we've been told for a long time that the biggest issue was that people couldn't get access to treatment. And so that's why they weren't going into treatment. So we had all of our providers waivered so that they could provide this service to people who we thought would come flocking in. Well, we just showed that we didn't really understand the opioid psychology as well as we might have. And what we discovered is that, in fact, very few people came in on their own, and more would be in our emergency department as a result of overdoses, where they would be Narcan back to life, and we would try to stabilize them. And then most of the time, they really weren't interested in treatment at all. All they really wanted to do is get out of our ER and get their next fix. It's kind of sad. What we did notice is that we were quite successful in helping people that had narrowly avoided death consider treatment, but not always get them to enter. So 3 years ago, we entered a new player in the scene, Sheriff Juan Figueroa. Sheriff Figueroa had a completely different vision for the law enforcement role. Instead of arresting criminals who were using illegal drugs, as had been the view from the law enforcement lane, he saw people suffering from addiction, basically the same as we see in healthcare. This is a giant paradigm shift. It cannot be overstated. Juan set up a special team called Oracle to help people suffering from addiction instead of looking for opportunities to arrest them. Completely different paradigm. The obvious synergies of combining our lanes was apparent. Today, Oracle brings patients, not criminals, to our emergency department for care. Our providers and peer counselors work to help these patients make the positive decision to accept Suboxone and start down the treatment path to a brighter future. We arrange care with our partners, and Oracle transports them, because transportation is a very difficult thing, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, to the next step in their recovery. This is totally innovative and refreshing. It's completely different than the way it was. I'd also like to say a few words about Juan Figueroa personally. Juan is a remarkable leader. He walks his talk. There are many officials that do not keep their word. Juan has offered to help us when we have difficulty transferring patients to treatment. In the middle of cold nights with no taxis or other options to help patients get to where they need to go, Juan's department has been instrumental in expanding the role of law enforcement to support their colleagues in healthcare. So we're very grateful for that. Juan is a man of honor, innovation, leadership, execution, that's getting things done. It is difficult to express the magnitude of my admiration for Juan Figueroa. His work has changed the paradigm and role of law enforcement, an absolute leader to embed social workers and counselors into his Oracle team and change the way law enforcement services are delivered here in Ulster County. Sheriff Figueroa's work is a model that is being followed around the country. It was mentioned just moments ago that he will be presenting at a national conference this exact program. We should all be so proud of him and the work he's doing, saving lives and leading the way for a new kind of law enforcement. I thank you for the opportunity to share this with all of you today, because it is just so exciting, the kind of work that our sheriff is doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly. Thank you for articulating the connections, the holistic environment that he's creating, connecting, and Michelle, you articulated that as well, to all of our different agencies, the integrity, and mostly, which you don't see so often, the dignity that he holds each of our Ulster County residents in, the dignity, the high regard. So next up, speaking of dignity and high regard and connecting communities and all of those things, Evelyn Clark comes from a family of longtime community activists and organizers. She serves as a town of Esopus councilwoman, as well as an associate minister of New Progressive Baptist Church. In 2021, she had the distinction of receiving the New York State Senate's Woman of Distinction Award, and we are so thankful to work alongside her. Welcome, Evelyn.
Thank you, Adriana. It is certainly a pleasure to be able to speak on behalf of Sheriff Juan Figueroa. I come from a town, the town of Esopus, where we do not have our own police force. So we count on the Sheriff's Department to provide those services in the town of Esopus. And as I recall, about 4 years ago, when Juan Figueroa launched his campaign, I'll say his first campaign, there were more than a few naysayers and some doubting Thomases who didn't think that Juan Figueroa could be elected sheriff in this county, not because of his experience or his service to his country as a Marine and a former New York State trooper, but primarily they thought Juan Figueroa couldn't be elected because Juan Figueroa wasn't a white male. They just couldn't see beyond the status quo. But I am proud to say that the people of Ulster County proved the naysayers wrong. And that milestone election 4 years ago brought law enforcement in Ulster County into the 21st century. As he promised, Sheriff Juan Figueroa ended the culture of exclusion and cronyism in the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Figueroa promoted policies that fostered a culture of learning and self-improvement and instituted equitable merit recognition for the employees of the Sheriff's Department. As sheriff, Juan Figueroa has kept his promise to establish a positive, non-political office with zero tolerance for racial or sexual harassment or for favoritism. For years prior to Sheriff Figueroa's election, the Ulster County Sheriff's Department was fielding complaints and even some lawsuits by Black corrections officers who felt they were being overlooked for promotions. But Sheriff Figueroa kept his promise to the community and has opened those doors that had been closed to people of color and to women. The staff in the Sheriff's Department is now more diverse, keeping a commitment by Sheriff Figueroa to expand recruitment efforts by reaching out to members from the entire community. I can attest to those efforts because he reached out and encouraged young men and women from our congregation, even to the point of running with them across the Newburgh Beacon Bridge. Now that's what I call leadership in action. Today, Sheriff Figueroa has the most diverse workforce in county government, including the first African-American superintendent of corrections, the first female detective sergeant in the criminal division, and the first female superintendent of corrections. We should applaud him for that. Sheriff Figueroa has kept his promise to build bridges between law enforcement and the public by partnering with government agencies, community organizations, faith-based programs, families, and youth to promote mutual respect and understanding. He often meets with community residents in public forums, as well as regular interactions and through support of youth programs, such as the Lights On program in Kingston, which is aimed at reducing gun-related violence in our communities. Sheriff Figueroa also encourages Ulster County Community College students who are studying criminal justice by presenting scholarships from the Sheriff's Department in recognition of their academic excellence. Sheriff Figueroa promised to undertake a comprehensive approach to the opioid crisis, and he has kept his promise. His department received the Sheriff's Innovative Program Award from the New York State Sheriff's Institute in Albany for the creation, and the implementation of the Oracle program that Stephen was talking about a few minutes ago. Oracle is an innovative approach which works to change the culture built around arresting and locking up addicts to one geared towards prevention, education, and treatment. And Sheriff Figueroa has been instrumental in helping with the AVERT program to proactively approach and stem the surge of violence in our communities. Sheriff Figueroa has demonstrated that it is possible to uphold the law while working with the community. He has shown that it is possible to apply proactive, innovative, and sensible approaches to law enforcement. Sheriff Figueroa represents a brand of leadership that values fairness, compassion, respect, and the highest standards of professionalism at all levels. He is a public servant, bound by an unwavering sense of duty and deep commitment to our community. A public servant with the vision and the insight to keep our community safe while enforcing the law. Sheriff Juan Figueroa is a sheriff for all the people of Ulster County. And I wholeheartly endorse his re-election to lead the County of Ulster's Sheriff's Department forward for another 4 years. Come on, let's re-elect Sheriff Juan Figueroa. Yay!
Everybody, you better have Evelyn on your team. Do the work. Evelyn, are you introducing our next esteemed elected, Mr. Pat Ryan?
I believe you were going to, but I certainly can, because I am a supporter of Pat Ryan, and he is our second county executive, and he is doing a fabulous job. He came into this position right in the midst of this horrible epidemic, but he has been keeping us safe. And at the same time, he's been building a family while he's been keeping our county safe. So
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, Pat, and your family on your new addition. I believe Cameron is his name.
That's
Beautiful
right.
baby.
Yeah.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, man, Steve hit this, but now I have to go after Evelyn, so that's even harder. So I'll be very brief. It's really an honor to be here with you all. Good morning. I'm sorry we're not in person, but I'm glad we made it happen. It's a special moment to support my friend, our tremendous Sheriff Juan Figueroa. I can't believe looking at that picture from 2018 of Juan with his hands up at the Senate garage. That does really just feel like it just happened. But you've done a tremendous amount, excuse me, of work and reforms as we've heard about Juan in that time. I do want to just take a second to look back and remember, as others have alluded to and spoke about, in 2018, this was Juan took tremendous risk and put himself out there and bravely challenged the establishment, which was deeply rooted and I believe deeply corrupt in our county. And there were a lot of people who said that couldn't happen. But the grassroots effort that powered Juan's campaign in 2018 is reassembled here. It's added even more people to the mix as he's delivered. And that message that was sent loud and clear in 2018, that we have to change, we have to innovate if we're going to actually achieve true justice for everyone, for all of our residents, we have to make some pretty fundamental changes. And Juan has delivered on that. And you've heard about that from the opioid work, which we know is nation leading, and having a tangible impact on people's lives, working to get more resources from towards our mental health work in the jail, but also, upstream before folks are having to arrive there. The AVERT program, which was talked about, I still remember sitting around the table with you, Sheriff Figueroa, and saying, how do we get ahead of this gun violence? And within a few weeks, you had crafted a truly innovative and incredible program that we're now excited to be implementing. So all these programs are not only helping our community, but they have really made Juan a rock star, a nationally recognized leader in this community, someone who's willing to go against the grain in a good way. And I am damn proud of that. And I'm damn proud of him representing our county. But what I think really sets Juan apart is not, it is what he does, obviously, but it's how he does the job. And others have talked about this, but what comes to mind for me is a big heart. You can see that smile, but you don't meet, I think, a lot of folks who've done a career in law enforcement that you would first describe as having a big heart. No knock on other folks, but I think having that sense of compassion ultimately driving what he's doing with his own team, with our community, with reaching out to people that have felt that they haven't been engaged by the Sheriff's Department and law enforcement. That's what really sets Juan apart. And he's done this his whole life, his whole career. He learned those values as a Marine, rising in the ranks in the Marine Corps, of course, as a state trooper, and now to bring all that experience and those values to bear in the service of the 180,000 residents of our county. It's awesome to watch. I'm so proud to have you as a teammate in the trenches, as someone said earlier. At the end of the day, what I think people need to recognize, and we all need to get this word out to every single resident in the county, Juan is nonstop. Like, Juan does not stop. He does not rest at all hours. And he goes from probably, answering a high risk, violent crime scene to then going and meeting with a family of a victim who just might have lost a loved one to an overdose. And that all happens in one night. And he is there personally, bringing that humanity, bringing that compassion, ultimately building trust. And at the end of the day, we all know in our country right now, in our community right now, the trust between the people and those sworn to protect them is what we have to work to address. And Juan has done incredible work on this in just a few years. So we have to keep him in office. We have to support him and bolster him. I'm excited to be here, to be all in to support you, Juan, and ultimately to introduce you, Juan, after having to hear all these nice things about you. Now you actually have to, address this illustrious crowd. But good to see everyone, and belated Happy New Year. And without further ado, Sheriff Juan Figueroa. Give it up loud and proud for Juan.
Good morning, everyone. And Pat, thank you very much for your kind words and congratulations on the newborn Cameron. I'm looking around the room here on the screen here, and I look at so many folks that really care about this community. As you all know, I am not the sheriff alone. Mr. County Executive, I want to thank you for taking time today to come in here. People don't realize the important role, I think, that those that are positions of authority really and truly have behind the scenes. I do, and I appreciate everything that you do and the partnership that we have in order for me to move these programs forward. It has to be a partnership. And I'll talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to personally thank you, Pat, for coming here. What can I say about Evelyn Clark? My God, it's tough to follow that. Thank you so much, Evelyn. You're an amazing leader. Everybody knows that. And I thank you so much for being here today. Steve Kelly, that partnership that we have that started 3 years ago is stronger than ever. You realized and you took action right away when you saw folks coming to your emergency room that were trying to get opioids for pain, and you realized that there was a major problem in our community, and you took action. One of the only hospitals that took immediate action, and of course, Senator Hinchey. I can't thank you enough for bringing the folks down from Albany to see what we're doing here in Ulster County. I saw their faces when the Oracle team was telling them what we were doing here. And I thank you so much for bringing your leadership and your folks down here to Ulster County and the importance of what you do for all of us here in Ulster County. So thank you so much, Senator Hinchey. And I want to thank the team for putting this together today because you guys are amazing. But there are a lot of other partners. When I said that I'm not the sheriff alone, I am the caretaker of this seat, and I work for the people of Ulster County. And I see some great faces out there that helped me along the way and continue to be there, like Chairwoman Eve Walter, like Ashley Dittis, and so many, many others that I know you're out there. 2018 was a historic time for all of us. The community wanted to change, and they wanted to change the direction. And I knew the challenges when I took this job. I don't think anybody knew, though, what was gonna happen 2 or 3 years later. It really has been challenging, not just for those of us in law enforcement, but all of us in general with the pandemic. But these challenges, I can tell you that I didn't face them alone. I want to thank the men and women of the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. They've accepted and embraced change. They understand the challenges that we still have in front of us. I also want to thank the local police chiefs and their agencies for working together, doing this transformation of forging a new relationship, a better relationship with our community. You know, when I got elected, I made a lot of pledges. I supported the green light legislation to give licenses to everyone because before 2001, that's exactly the way it was in New York. And in this country, due process still means something. I changed policies regarding immigration enforcement in our office. I wanted to make sure that everybody in this county got treated fairly, whether you're a citizen or not. This is the land of the free, and we are a country of immigrants. I've updated the use of force policies. I've updated complaints against personnel. I've diversified the sheriff's office, as you heard earlier. And of course, we launched and established the Opioid Responses County Law Enforcement. We got a $900,000 grant. Again, that was not alone. That was with the help of the Ulster County Executive. That was with the help of the Ulster County Legislature, the Department of Health. And for the first time in the history of law enforcement here in the Hudson Valley and in Ulster County, we have a social worker and peer advocates that go out on calls. Instead of putting people in jail, we're actually going to help them because we know these people are sick. They're committing small crimes to support their habits. And we know that we had to change what we were doing in law enforcement. So it's extremely important that we understand where we're heading and how we got there. That partnership of folks being embedded for the first time is in law enforcement is an eye-opening experience for us in law enforcement as well. Users that we arrest that are also users that are dealers, we refer them to drug court and we get them into rehab. We have so many community partners, whether it's the healing communities, Ellenville Hospital, local law enforcement agencies, Ryan, Hope Rocks, Catholic Charities, so many more. To date, Oracle has assisted over 400 individuals and their families. And we've had referrals, 35% of the referrals are from loved ones. And 65% are from local police agencies, including the sheriff's office, when they show up to an overdose. We've also started the MAP program in the Ulster County Jail, one of the first in the Hudson Valley. Oracle is also involved with that. And speaking of Oracle, they're an absolutely amazing team. The team is really what makes this a success. And my hat's off to them. They work 7 days a week and they never take no for an answer. And that's what makes them so important. As you know, they won the 2019 Innovative Program for the New York State Sheriffs, and we're heading down to Washington, D.C. in February to talk to the national sheriffs. But make no mistake, we also arrest dealers who are profiting and peddling this poison out into our streets. Our urgent task force presents evidence, and of the last couple of years, we've arrested folks in the DA's office had prosecuted folks for manslaughter second and criminal negligent homicide. That's never happened before. We had to send the message that we cannot allow people to make money on the misery of putting drugs out in the streets and causing people to die in our county. The task force has shifted its strategy. It's targeting suppliers rather than the low-level dealers. Last year, and of course, the year before, have been absolutely incredible with the pandemic, bail reform, discovery laws, the repeal of 50A. All of us in law enforcement had to look at the mirror and figure out a way how to improve the way we treat people of color and the underprivileged. I know, because I sat with the chiefs in this county, that we're heading in the right direction. I know that we have flaws, and there's nothing wrong with some improvement. We've trained, we've done implicit bias training, citizen officer interaction training. We're going to have a Citizens Academy that's coming up this year. The important thing of what we are learning or continue to move forward on is that of respecting everyone and treating everyone the right way, de-escalating situations. Putting civilians in key positions is also an important thing in this administration. A discovery coordinator who gathers all the information for both the prosecutor and the defense attorneys is a civilian in the sheriff's office. The urgent commander, who's a previous prosecutor for the DA's office, a civilian, runs the task force. He makes sure that when the search warrants are submitted, that they're legal, they're right, they're fair, and we're not violating people's rights. And starting this year with the help of the county executive and a lot of folks in this county, we're going to really move forward with the Anti-Violence Effort Response Team, AVERT. That program is somewhat mirrored to Oracle. We're going to try and identify folks that haven't gotten in trouble. We know that they have weapons or involved or a potential issue of being involved in violence. We're going to offer them education. We're going to offer them vocational training. We're going to offer them housing. We're going to offer them mental health help. And this is just the beginning. We're also going to hire a chief investigator of professional standards. In the past, it was a collateral duty. Well, it's not going to be anymore. That's not what we should be doing in law enforcement. That's not what our community wants. What we want is, if there's a complaint, that we have an independent person who's not affiliated with unions that's going to go out and investigate any complaints against personnel. This individual, when they get hired, is going to be doing audits, quality assurance checks, internal investigations, backgrounds, crisis intervention, and employee assistance, because law enforcement also has issues, and we have to take care of our own folks as well. I see that I froze, so let me know, and thank you. I'm in my home, so it's the Wi-Fi here isn't the greatest, so I apologize. So yes, the professional standards is going to be something that we're focusing on. We also launched recently a sheriff's app, again, to be transparent. You'll be able to make complaints, look at our policies, and so many other things that within the app. So go take a look at the app. I want to finish with one last thing. As the caretaker, as I said earlier, of the office and representative of the people, we have a lot more to do. I am asking you for your support as I seek a second term, so together we can continue to make Ulster County stronger, safer, and more united. So thank you, and I appreciate everything that you do for all of us, and I look forward in being your sheriff for another 4 years. Thank you very much.
Woo!
Yay! Thank you so much, Sheriff Figueroa. Thank you so much for serving the community of Ulster County and for being so engaged and leading us all with so much integrity and connection. And I think now we are going to go to questions. If anybody has any questions, I'm getting a list right now. I see your hand up, Rick Remsnyder from Southern Ulster Times. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you. Can Rick unmute himself? Yes, he can.
You're on mute.
Can you unmute yourself? Okay,
Yeah, sorry about that.
no worries.
Not a big fan of Zoom. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning.
What I like to ask, I'm from the Southern Ulster Times, and what I wanted to ask you, what perspective has being a longtime resident of Plattekill brought to your job as the Ulster County Sheriff? And thank you.
Well, when I started in 2018, my parents moved us up here from the Bronx, and I don't know where I would be today in my life if it wasn't for my mom and dad and for their decision to bring us up here to Plattekill. I could have done anything else in my life, but I this is a way to give back not only to my community here in Plattekill, but to my mom and dad. As you think I'm sitting here alone in my room, I'm not. I actually have, my mom was staring at me the whole time. I think family support is extremely important. I think knowing who you are and your experiences in life is what you bring to the table when you run for an office like this. The importance of what you can do for your community. And sometimes along the way, you find out the meaning of what life is. And I'm so humbled to be the sheriff of Ulster County. And to me, giving back to my community is the biggest thing. And I've been serving my whole life, but this by far has been one of the most enjoying jobs. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. All right, we have next up, Dan Barton. Dan Barton, I didn't get if you're with a...
I'm sorry about that. I'm with the Kingston Wire.
Okay, Kingston Wire. Thank you.
Sheriff, the pandemic aside, what in the last 4 years has been the most surprising for you as Ulster County Sheriff?
The most surprising is the change that we're doing in law enforcement. I didn't say it earlier, but I call it the people's audit. And I got that from my staff, actually. The change of behavior, the way we communicated 30 years ago is not the way, obviously, how we communicate today. And I think we lose that human touch. This was a low-paying job when I first started my career, and now it's a tremendous career that's high-paying. You kind of lose touch with the community that you serve. We all live in bubbles, but I think the people's audit that we were all part of here in Ulster County, every chief was part of. I think that was needed, and I think that line of communication needed to be opened. It needed to be, and we need to look at the mirror. And I think that's the biggest change that I see. The other part of that is I'm proud of the men and women at the sheriff's office. I'm proud of law enforcement to embrace this change. It wasn't easy looking on television and constantly seeing and hearing that your profession's under attack. It was a tough time, and it continues to be, but we know that we are part of this community, and we need to make the proper adjustments so people can trust us, because we can't do this job without our community. But I know I've seen the change in not only in the sheriff's office, but in the other local agencies in this county. When someone goes to a gas station and doesn't have gas, and a deputy pays for the gas, and you hear about it. When the deputy goes to an eviction and offers to get them a place to stay by reaching out to our partners at the county government. It's no longer just going and leaving after you do your job. We have to go the extra step. That's what people want us to do. And I think that's the biggest change that I know it's happening. And it's a culture change, and I'm glad that it's happening. And I think it's good for all of us.
Thank you. Can I ask another one real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With the legalization of cannabis and the potential that has for more cannabis impaired drivers on the road, what do you think your department needs to do to prepare for that?
I'm part of the New York State Sheriff's Association, and one of the things I discussed up there was that of DRE training, drug recognition experts. We definitely want to have our roads safe. We know it's going to be a challenge. It has been initially challenges in other states when they legalize cannabis. But I also think, though, that people are smart enough to know in today's world that you can get a ride by Uber or Lyft, and we're hoping that people will continue to do what they have done when it comes to drinking and driving. Our dogs are all marijuana trained dogs, and that's an issue. So we're going to have to, figure out a way how to get new dogs. But all in all, I think it's a time of looking to see how this is going to work out and what's going to happen in society. I mean, I can't foretell the future, but I know that whatever that is, that we're going to adapt and do the best that we can to save lives here.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So next up, we have Stan Odell. Stan Odell, who are you? Who are you with? What press outlet?
I am a friend, past coworker, supporter of Juan. Juan and I worked together for many years. I've come from a background of over 30 years with the state police. I've seen Juan step into a big set of shoes, fill them very well. He's made us proud, those coworkers from the state police. I know the people that work for him, with him, and around him have done nothing more than compliment him. So he not only has the support of the other law enforcement agencies and the people that I've spoken to, but the public, and that's obvious. So I just wanted to jump in and say, Juan, I support you wholeheartedly, and I'll help you in any way that I can. You've got a lot of work to do ahead of you. I know that through our conversation. So at least another 4 years to get all that done. So good luck to you.
Thank you, Stan. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Stan. And I wanted to just read something here from one of our county legislators. Manager Green says she agrees with all that's been said, also amazed at the smoothness of the transition when Juan became sheriff. That's due in large part to his support for his staff. I am very grateful.
Thank
Rick,
you,
you
ma'am.
have another question.
There's another question, yeah.
Rick,
Yes, and I've mastered mute and unmute here this time. Sheriff, just kind of a follow-up question on what is your mom and dad's first names?
My mother is Hilda Figueroa, and my father was Juan Figueroa, and they are both deceased, but they're still around.
That's good. What I wanted to ask you is what principles, you went into the Marine Corps first, I believe. What principles did they instill in you that got you decided to go down that path and eventually become sheriff?
No, I just graduated, but it was my high school teacher who swore me in as sheriff. His name is John Lenio. Mr. Lenio, who is a big supporter of an independent Ukraine, was a tremendous teacher. Again, here's another individual. I don't know where I would be if I didn't go to Walkill High School and learn from him. And the Marine Corps taught me so many things, and I got to see the world. I got to see how other people live in our great nation. Although we may have flaws compared to other places in the world, I'm very fortunate and very lucky. I am proof that the American dream still exists. And I'm so proud of my service in the Marine Corps, my service in the New York State Police, and my humble service now as the people's representative that is the caretaker of the office of sheriff. So I guess my life experiences have brought me to where I am today, of course, with the support of all the great folks of Ulster County.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, I would like to thank you all for coming to this event as we work to re-elect our sheriff, the people's sheriff, Ulster County Sheriff Juan Figueroa. And we have opportunities for volunteers. We're going to ask everybody to unmute and cheer and everything. But I do want you to all go into the chat and click on the link there to sign up to volunteer. Getting our sheriff reelected is going to be a big team effort, and we need your help. So please click on that link that's down there. And should we all unmute now and do a big round of applause for our sheriff?
Yay!
Yay! Loud! Yay!
Come on, yes.
4 years.
You all. God bless you.
Maybe we can all, let's all
Hey,
smile at
Gladys.
the camera. I think photos are being taken.
Okay, let's smile for the camera.
Smile for the camera.
Smiles.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Be safe.
We love you, Juan.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen.
Of course it's gonna happen.
No doubt.
That's first time on Zoom, Juan.
You did great.